Great. Thank you, Dyson, and thank you everyone for attending today. We appreciate your time and we're excited to share with you our new product, Indigo.Design. So my name is Jason Barris. I'm the Senior VP of Developer Tools at Infogistics. With us today, we have George Abraham, a UX architect. He's also the lead UX on the Indigo product, which he's going to do some really cool demos today on our cloud service, our image-based prototyping, our usability studies, and how you can take all of that and then drive it down to the development process into code. Stefan Ivanov is with us. He's also a UX architect. His realm of expertise is around our UI kits and how we've built this design system in Sketch and ensured that it maps to our Angular product. So when you design something, you will always get that certainty in the output. You'll get the code generated that you expect from the design. Also with us is Robert Stofrus, who's a senior developer on this product. He's responsible for all the details in the code gen. And then Brian Lagunas is our senior product owner who covers all of these products and ensures that we're delivering the right thing down to customers, and also is intimately familiar with how we have built this code generation engine and then how we take things from Sketch into the cloud out into the experience inside of Visual Studio Code. So let's start talking a little bit about Indigo.Design. Indigo.Design is a unified platform for visual design, UX prototyping, code generation, and app development. So what we're trying to do is tie together this workflow that you all use every single day to help build software. So the real question is, everyone has a workflow today, one way or another, be it, best practices, agile, whatever you're trying to do. So what problem are we trying to solve here with the Indigo.Design story? Well, what we really want to do is look at how much time is actually spent in the UI and how much time is spent in the rest of the app development process. So today, about 60% of the time of the entire life cycle of an application is spent working on the UI. The other 40% includes everything else. The problem with that is 60% is too much. We don't spend enough time on the upfront aspect of software design, which is around UX architecture, UX design, visual design, including customers into that design, doing collaborative and iterative feedback on a design to ensure that whatever we're designing ends up being what users expect. So we need to start looking at flipping these numbers. And the reason for that, if we look at this graph, it really kind of tells the story. So you can see there's three areas of this chart. There's the requirements phase, the development phase, and the deployment phase. The point of this is showing that in the requirements phase, the cost of change, and what we mean by the cost of change is if the design team changes something, if a button moves, if a screen gets redesigned, if an interaction changes, the cost of that is very low. Let's say, for example, it's 8 hours per change. As we get into the development phase, that cost gets higher, but it actually goes 4 times higher once you get into the deployment phase. So imagine if you deployed out to a customer and you didn't do enough time on that UX design before you actually started development, and if it cost $100 to change that during the requirements phase or $50, it's going to cost $400 to $600 in the deployment phase. And that's just an example number. These costs are really high. They're in the thousands to tens of thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars that are lost because we don't spend enough time thinking about what the UX should be, what customers expect before you build the application and deploy it. So Indigo.Design is starting to help that problem, and you'll see today throughout the demo how we actually do that. So this enormous amount of time and energy is lost in the designer to developer handoff. Many devs don't have the skill set to build UIs. They don't like building UIs. Most developers we talk to like working in code. So they like doing the middleware, they like doing the data access, they like doing the back-end code. And when it comes to the UI, it's sort of an afterthought. And so there's always specialists on the team that try to do that, but in general, that's really where the time suck ends up being. So what happens is we get higher development costs, decreased sales, decreased market penetration, decreased customer satisfaction, and overall increased support costs. So what, again, we are trying to say is, hey, if you look at Indigo.Design and the pieces of it, your teams can save hours, days, and even weeks going from design to code in a single click. So really, we've got this so streamlined, and you'll see that today in the demos, that you can actually do something really robust, really creative, and get the HTML, the CSS, and the TypeScript with the single click of a button. Now, that's not all you get. With Indigo.Design, our cloud service has added benefits like collaboration with stakeholders. So I design a screen and I want to share it with my stakeholders. I want to get iterative feedback. We have a whole usability studies backend that George is going to talk about today, which means you can design something, collaborate with your stakeholders, do usability studies at scale, and then get that analytics and feedback, which goes right back into your design, all before you write any code. So this iterative design with our design system ensures that certainty in the outcomes. And so the more certain you can be in the outcome, the better customer satisfaction you're going to have, and all of those things that were the negative really do turn into the positive. Now, what we've also done is we've really tried to keep you in the tools that you love the most. So we're not trying to say, hey, here's this infragistics thing, you must use every piece and every aspect to be successful using our design system. You can use Visual Studio Code, which is what is sort of the de facto standard for doing Angular apps today. You can use Sketch to do all your visual design, and then you use our cloud service, our UI kits, and our plugins across those tools. And then best of all, our Ignite UI for Angular product, which is what your output's going to be generated in. So if we take a look at what this design system comprises of, the first thing is you create the designs in Sketch. Sketch has become one of the most popular visual design tools in the market over the last 18 months. And what we've done is we've created UI kits in Sketch. We have a components library, a patterns library, and an underlying style library, which drives the branding and the theming for those libraries. Stefan is going to walk you through what those components and patterns look like and what we've done to add value and how they actually map out to our Angular components. The second area is the cloud service, where you can share and test prototypes with users via cloud.indigo.design. So there's a few things you can do here. You can take your Sketch designs, upload them to this service, and you can create prototypes in the cloud. So you can add interactions. You can share and collaborate those designs with others, with your business stakeholders, with end users. You can do usability studies. We have a video replay feature built into the usability studies, which actually gives you so much information with just a few people testing your application, which goes right back into that design process, which means you're not spending money writing code before you know what your users actually expect. And then finally, Ignite UI for Angular is our very robust Angular product, and that allows you to generate these pixel-perfect Angular code from your Sketch prototypes. So we have a Visual Studio Code extension that allows you to link up into the cloud, grab the prototypes that you want to generate code screens for, and then we'll generate that right into your application. And Rob is going to do a demo of that today. So I don't want to keep talking. I want to pass the baton over to George, because what George is going to, I'm going to pass the baton over to Stefan, and what Stefan is going to go ahead and do is show us how the design system works and what we can really do with this design system. So Stefan, I am going to select you, and you are now the presenter, so please take it away, Stefan.
Thank you, Jason. My screen should be showing now or anytime soon, so I'll just kick it off by showing you where you can download all the resources that you would need in order to take the full advantage of Indigo.Design. So once you go to the web page, cloud.indigo.design, just log in or create an account. And once you're in, go to the download resources section, which allows you to get your hands on the Indigo.Design Sketch UI kits, which are the UI kits for our design system. I'll dive deeper into those in a second, but you can get your code generation extension that Rob's gonna talk about later on, and get your hands on the Indigo.Design Desktop or Ignite UI for Angular as well. So within the cloud, George is gonna show a lot of amazing stuff, but I will just download the UI kits right now, drag them over here and unzip them to see that actually gives me access to 3 sketch files, which are library files, which means that in one of those I have my styling, allowing me to control my typography, my primary and secondary colors, among others, elevations and shadows as well. I have my components and patterns as well, which allow me to insert pre-made assets into my design. So I'll show you how you can do that, and I'll start by creating an empty artboard for a smartphone device, and from the insert menu, or actually before that, if I go to preferences, I'll see that currently I have no added libraries, and the way to add those libraries is to select all 3 of them, open them up, and now my insert menu will contain Indigo components, patterns, and styling. So from styling, I can insert colors, for example, to serve as a background, which is something neat, but what is more important is that in components, I have this huge set of pre-made components, giving me access to different sizes of avatars, different shapes of badges, things for my navigation, like a bottom navigation or a tab bar, as it's more familiar in the iOS community. I also have things like buttons. I'll insert a raised button, which I'm going to use later on to create a form. I have things such as calendars with horizontal and vertical layouts. You see they are really neat and nice looking. And for something as complicated as a layout, as this calendar here, I have a set of overrides, and that's something really important because those give me access and let me actually change the look and feel of this window. So for example, of this control. So if, for example, I wanted to change the header background color, I could easily go and choose another color such as green, which is used as a success color in the color palette, and scrolling further down into the override section, I can see that for the selected date, I can also change the color to green to make everything look a little bit different. What I could alternatively do is open up my styling library and change completely my primary, my secondary colors, which in case I have a fully built app experience would migrate those changes into my project and change all the places where I use my primary and secondary colors. So I'm going back to the components because there are more neat things such as cards, as charts, things for form building and design like checkboxes, switches, sliders and radio groups, all sorts of inputs which are really neat and give me a set of 3 types of inputs. The default style is line, but I could also choose it to be a bordered input or something that has a subtle background and is in a box shape. So I'll just keep the line input for now, as that will help me build a simple form. And go back quickly through the rest of the components, including things like dialogues, the grid and the list, progress bars and circular and linear bars, paragraphs and titles that I can insert as text, toast, snack bars, and all other neat things. I'm going to insert one generic grid as well to show you how more complex components look. And oops, I'll drag it out a bit. So for the grid to really work, we have to detach it from symbols since it's basically a repeater. And once we detach it, we're going to see a header and a body section with a set of header and body cells. So those cells actually have different overrides. The overrides panel is different for each component, giving me component specifics that I can customize further. Things like, for example, the header style, which controls the typography or the color of the text in the header. Things like the number of icons to the right, allowing me, for example, to choose whether I want to enable sorting, or if I really want to enable or activate the filtering. And of course, customize that to have a slightly different background color for the filtering circle, or something different that is used for the filter icon inside of the circle, such as the warning color. So I could do those customizations for the body cells as well, and in the case since where I'm using something that's of numeric type, I could change the type of the body cell to number or text or checkbox, whatever is necessary, and that's automatically going to align my content accordingly. Of course, I also have different states for selection, so I have a lot of capability with this design system, which really helps me do my design work faster, easier, and at the same time assures 100% consistency with the Ignite UI for Angular product. So what I'm gonna really quickly build here is a very simple UI. I'm just duplicating some of those inputs. I'm not gonna make everything pixel perfect because I have my pixel perfect layout pre-built, and I'm gonna show you how to share it later on. But what I really want to show is that for those inputs, besides having variants for brighter and darker backgrounds, I am going to change those their states to field states, which is also going to show me the label value. And I will change that to first name. For this input, I will change it to last name. And this one will be, for example, my password value. So inside of the first name, I'll change the input value to Eliza. The last name will be Morales. And the password will be asterisk symbols, which actually upon generating the code for this layout is going to tell the CodeGen engine that this input is used for a password since it has such content, and the code generator will automatically create a password input, which I believe is really awesome and saves a lot of time and effort. So if I continue to build and style this layout, changing some colors here and there, I'm eventually going to end up with something like this, which is more like a sign-up form allowing our customers or our product users to sign up. And what you can see here is that everything is grouped in a way that will assure that this thing creates 100 pixel perfect code generation, having set up things like the margins on all sides, things like, for example, this row here, which spans across the full width of its parent layer, which is the content, and having a first name which gravitates towards the left and the last name which does the same towards the right. So everything is set up properly here to give me a perfect responsive layout, even keeping this dialog in the center of my area. So what I'm going to show, and that's the last thing I want to show, is a plugin that was created, which is called IndigoSync, allowing us to publish from Sketch directly to the cloud. So actually, upon signing in, it's going to take me to a publish page, which is probably familiar to you if you have been using Indigo.Design desktop previously. Seeing that my size or artboard size is an iPhone 8 size. If you remember, that was the size I started with. It's going to upload this to my personal workspace, and it's going to call it Getting Started. I'll just change it like that. I have, of course, further things that I could add, such as a password protection, highlighting of hotspots, and addition of commands. So once I publish that, it's actually going to be available in my cloud, and this link is going to take me there. So from here on, I actually want to pass it over to George, who is going to show you all the functionality which is available in the cloud.
Perfect. So I'm just waiting to become a presenter, and voila. Great. So as Stefan was saying is that he published it from Sketch, and he said it went to the cloud, and the cloud for us is cloud.indigo.design. And the benefit of the cloud is that it stores all the prototypes you end up creating from Sketch, and it hosts it for you. And the benefit of that is that all the version history, so it may happen that during the design iterations, you go ahead and make changes to the design and you want to republish it, all of the version history for the prototypes is actually maintained in the cloud, and it comes for free. And the other benefit of having in the cloud is that the link which Stefan was talking about, say that you close down Sketch and you would like to know where this link is again, you can just come in, select that prototype, and then there is this get a link to this prototype option. You click on that, and here's the link. I can open this link, and the benefit you get with this approach is when you launch the prototype, when somebody accesses this link, they can actually interact with the design, with the prototype directly in the browser or on a device. It really doesn't matter. And you can actually have a full interactive experience with animations, transitions. And on top of that, you can actually start collecting ad hoc feedback from people who are members of your team who might actually know a little bit more about the design, so they can give you some immediate feedback on how the design is proceeding. So for example, I can just come in here, add a comment saying this is some feedback, and then I have a marker, and I can talk about which exact area I'm talking about. So I can just drop the marker there, post it, and of course it's a threaded conversation, so others who are looking at the design, they can actually reply to a specific comment directly from this prototype. Now, the fact that Stefan published from Sketch also means that you can actually edit this prototype directly in the cloud, or you can just create a brand new prototype from any Sketch documents or even images for that matter. But now I have this option to edit this prototype. So if Stefan forgot to add some transitions or some interactions, I can just click Edit Prototype, and I can see all the screens which were part of that particular prototype. And actually you're seeing more screens here because I wanted to make it more meaningful. But now I can just come in here, select any one of those screens, and say, you know what, I want to have an interaction for this particular link here. And all I'm doing is I'm just clicking and dragging, and that adds a hotspot. And now I can just click Add Interaction and point it to whichever screen I want it to navigate to, right? It's as simple as that. And when you look under this option tap or fade, you can see all the interaction triggers which are available for you to kind of override or make changes to, and also the transitions you can actually apply to this. So if you're actually looking for any specific kinds of interaction triggers or animation options, you know, feel free to ask us in a question section so we can respond to it later, right? So, but the real kicker for this whole process, as Jason was pointing out, is that with the UI kit approach, we can be assured that we have a very consistent and standardized UI, which actually matches the components we have in our design system, both from the UI design perspective and also from the UI development perspective. But that alone does not ensure a consistent UX, because for assessing UX, you really need to use this particular prototype within the context of a meaningful task. And that's where usability studies actually kicks in, is that instead of sending someone just a link to the prototype, you can actually ask them to do specific things with the prototype, and that allows us to collect more structured feedback across a wide variety of users and be able to assess from a quantitative perspective and also from a qualitative perspective how this design is actually working out for our audience. So to create a usability study is pretty simple. I can just select a prototype, and just like getting a link, I can just say create a usability study, and that's it. It adds this new usability study in a new section. And the right panel, you can see that there's a very simple UI to say, okay, add a specific task. So I can say, okay, this is what I want people to try to do by themselves. So I can say, where will you go to change your account password, right? And now I can tell the tool how I expect people to complete this task, right? How have we designed somebody to do this task? So I can say, yeah, this is the starting point for this task. And from this point onwards, I can just use the prototype I expect people to use it. So I can say they'll have to click on menu, and from menu, they'll have to click on profile. And once they get to this screen, I feel like they can actually successfully change their password because it's obvious. And I can say, save this task flow. And that's as simple as it to create one simple task for your prototype. Of course, you can create any number of tasks for your prototype. And the benefit is that when people are finished one task, they'll automatically be prompted to do the next task and so on and so forth. And I can actually show you what people would see when they actually get invited. So I say start the study, and this invitation link is what people would use to participate in the study. And I'll say, let's just click on try out the study. And they would actually come to a landing page which is different from the traditional landing page for a prototype. They will actually have some instructions for them to follow. And right now I already have this Chrome extension installed. And this Chrome extension is what allows us to capture the browser session and also provide the voice data and camera data if users are willing to provide that, right? So in this case, I can say, yeah, let's just click on this extension here. Yeah, I would like to offer up my voice. I don't want to give my camera right now. That's okay. I just start this usability study. And now you see that instead of diving right into the prototype, they're actually being asked to do, where will you go to change your account password? And the expectation is people will start the task and then try to do this task on their own. They'll say, okay, I'm going to click this guy. No, I'll click here. Okay, I'll click profile. And okay, at this point, the prompt has come up again because we know that this was the endpoint we wanted them to reach, and they've reached that successfully. They can, of course, give us some feedback on this task and hit I'm done. And if there are multiple tasks in this study, the next task will automatically be shared for them. Now, let me show you what it looks like once a study is already completed. And here I have a different prototype with more in-depth tasks defined for this. So for example, this particular study had like 4 tasks, and we have designed it to be very glanceable. We can see at a quick glance that 5 people attempted this particular task, and all 5 of them were successful in completing this task. I can always take a deeper dive, so I can just click on that. And I can automatically see everybody was successful. Some people took longer than average. And in fact, although we had expected people to take at least 10 steps to complete this task, some of them actually took 11 steps. And if you're curious, here's where the sweet sauce is. Like, you can hit play, and now it launches our video player, where it actually shows a video replay of that particular user using the prototype for that task. And as you can see on the timeline, it's also annotated. What that means, every blue dot are interactions we kind of expected them to do, and red dots are the things they did completely on their own. And I can just quickly just flip between all the people who have taken part for that particular task, or I can jump to a completely different task and get a sense of how that task actually was completed, and get a sense qualitatively also in terms of whether people were getting confused while they were completing this task. The one thing I did not mention earlier is, as Stefan mentioned briefly, that he shared things to his personal workspace. And that's great, but the even better part is that in addition to personal workspaces, we also have this concept of a group workspace. And the group workspace is almost like a shared location where you can actually invite other members of your team to take part. And you can create any number of workspaces either around specific projects, or you could have a constant team who's working on multiple projects and you just want to have a same workspace. I can just click create workspace and then click on this settings here and invite people to join this workspace. And the benefit of that is that notifications is also automatically built into it. So in future, if Stefan makes some changes to the prototype or updates a newer version of the prototype, members of the workspace will automatically get notified that there has been a change, and they can go ahead and take a look at the prototype directly by launching it from their email list, from the email list itself. Now, after you have kind of gained some confidence that this is actually a good design to move forward with, and this is where Jason talked about reducing the cost of iteration. Now that you have confidence, you would like to move on to the actual coding part of it, and that's where I will hand off to Rob to take over from here, and he would use the same link which kind of Stefan had actually published, but he has a different workflow which originates from the same link. So with that, Rob, why don't you go ahead and show them how code generation works off of prototype.
Thank you, George. I will do just that as soon as I get to share my screen. Okay.
It should be good.
Yep, I'm good now. Thanks. So kind of what Stefan and George have been talking about with our cloud-based website. I have a design here that uses a screen that, actually both of these screens, they come from the budget app, and George briefly showed that before. So I took two screens from that app and created this prototype here. And my intent is to code gen this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Angular project. Now this project is blank. It's brand new. I just did ng new, name of the app, and boom. So there's nothing here. You can see that the app HTML is still the default. And if I come over here, I had run it, you can see it's the welcome to app screen. So the first thing I'm going to do, once I have my project open, is I'm going to launch our code generator extension for VS Code, and I'm going to take the link to my prototype, and I'm going to paste it there, and then click go. So you'll see it pulls down the images and all the information related to the prototype. Now I just want to generate this screen here. I don't want to generate the nav bar here because you see I have two screens and they both have a nav bar. So the way that you would normally set up the app, you would have one place that has your nav bar defined, and then you'd have an area below it defined that uses Angular's router outlet to allow you to switch between screens. So I'm just going to generate this lower half portion here that's highlighted. So it's going to ask me to install the packages. So it's going to install the Ignite UI for Angular NPM package using NPM. It's also going to install any of the dependencies that our Ignite UI for Angular package has. So it's going to install that right now, and you'll see that it'll update the package JSON. So it's updating your project on the fly right now. Takes a couple seconds to get all the packages though. So that's done, and now it's updating your project. So basically it's taking code that was generated and adding it to the project. So now and every time we're going to update a file that already exists, we ask you if it's okay, because you might have code in there that you might not want us to override. For app module, it's okay. And actually I'm going to say yes to all, because it's a blank project. I don't care what the extension does. So you'll see here I have my login, so this is the screen I generated. Now we provide you the HTML, we provide you the CSS, and we also provide you the TypeScript. Now this is all just, there's nothing hidden here. It's all, plain to see. We're not doing anything crazy. So I think now that I got my screen uploaded, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this old content. I'm just going to delete it, and I'm going to go, since my component is named login, you're going to use app-login, and then I'm going to open up terminal here, do npm start. So we'll just compile this and then run a web server in the background. And then what we should see over here in this tab, once this finishes, or maybe I have to manually refresh. Oh no. Oh, I thought I had that already. I think, oh, yeah. This you won't need to do in the next version of the extension. We're going to do this for you automatically, but this is actually a bug in the extension. It's a really easy thing to fix, though. Just add that one line. Save it, and it'll reload, and then we have our screen. And you'll see that it behaves the way it did in Stefan, when Stefan demoed the resizing. It behaves the same way because the screen followed the rules, and these are actual inputs, so you can come in here. There's actually editable. These are real checkboxes, real buttons. So that's really cool. So now what I'm going to do real quickly, I'm going to generate one more screen, that budget management screen, because it has a grid in it, and I want to show you the data binding. So I'll just select that. And I want to specify here under model object name, I want to specify a class called user. This is where it's going to pull the data from. So we'll generate that, and it's going to create over here a budget folder. Say yes. Here it is. So I created this budget folder. So now I need a place for the data, because I actually don't have the file yet here. So I'm just going to create this file called user.ts, and I have a snippet here that's going to add some data. So this is just creating an array and putting some dummy, some random values into it. So then we're just going to come here, and instead of using app login, I'm going to switch it to app budget so you can see the screen. Save that. Switch back over here, and we can see that the grid is there, but it's empty because I forgot to do one thing. Go to the TypeScript. You see we have some commented out TypeScript here that was expecting user class. This user came from the model object name in that dialog we were just in. So I'll just uncomment out the user guy up here and the instance here, the variable instance there, and then we'll just do user equals new user. Save that. So now it knows where to pull the data from, and now we have a grid with populated data. It behaves the same way. With the rules specified in the sketch, it'll be responsive and stay in the center of the screen like it was designed to. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Jason.
Wow, that was sweet. Very cool. Thanks, Rob. So let me grab the, actually, you need to make me the presenter, I believe.
Sorry. You should be presenter now.
All right, show my screen. Cool. So what I want to do is real quickly, before I wrap this up, I want to show a couple things. So what's important to understand is we saw the Sketch UI kits, and we saw how you can design screens in Sketch. So Sketch is this visual design tool that designers use to build this stuff, right? They build all the UI and all the things, and we've done a lot of work in those UI kits to extend them so they map up to our Ignite UI for Angular product. So our Ignite UI for Angular product is a suite of 50 plus UI components built on the Angular framework, of course, showcased with a super fast grid and a super fast chart. But also if I scroll all the way down, you will see we have a bunch of other components as well. So the idea is that this concept of the design system really isn't complete unless we've got the UI kits and then the matching components to go with it, which is really how we get that certainty in the outcomes with code generation. So that sort of ties everything together. Now, if you go to the Indigo.Design homepage, which is just http Indigo.Design, I want to show you a little bit of what you get with this product. So let me scroll all the way down, and you'll see here the app gallery. So in the app gallery, we have two complete end-to-end applications. One's called budget management, which you saw a little bit of today, and another one's called people. With each one of these, you can download the sketch file, you can go right to the prototype in the cloud, or you can download the Angular, the full Angular code for these apps. So once you register, you go up here, sign up for free, or sign in if you've already started your trial, you can actually just grab these guys and not only learn Sketch, you can learn how to use Indigo, Cloud.Indigo.Design, you can learn some best practices in Angular, but we're really trying to move you along through this process. And then another really nice benefit we get here is if you click Docs in the upper right there, we go down to the video tutorials. We have a whole slew of video tutorials which will walk you through every aspect of the system so you understand it, along with a very robust set of documentations which covers the styling, all of the components, and then all of the patterns that Stefan had mentioned, and it gives you how to use them, what the code generation should look like, how the layout should work, etc. So I highly recommend you just go check this stuff out. So to wrap up, let's just close this out with, again, reiterating the fact that Indigo.Design is a unified platform for visual design, UX prototyping, code generation, and application development. So there's several pieces of this system, and what they do is they help your teams deliver better outcomes to your users, which at the end of the day will do all of those positive things, not only from your customer perspective, but from your business. So if you design in Sketch, test and collaborate in the cloud, and then get Ignite UI for Angular code with our Visual Studio Code extension, you have lower development costs, increased sales, increased market penetration, much higher customer satisfaction, and then most importantly, lower support costs, which is really where companies spend a ton of money. Once you start getting applications deployed, you're making changes. Those changes not only cost money and time, effort, but then in the support costs as well. So you really kind of get that double whammy. So the call to action is to go sign up today at http://indigo.design. I showed you the homepage. Stefan showed you where to start getting some of these resources. I also showed you that app gallery, which you can go and download not only sketch files, but go view the prototypes in the cloud and get these Angular applications. And then we really want to hear your feedback. So please let us know if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have new feature ideas. We're all here to help you. We're all really focused on this product now, and we want you to be successful with it. So again, my name is Jason Barris. With me today was George Abraham, Stefan Ivanov, Robert Stofers, and Brian Lagunas. And we'll stay online for a couple more minutes and answer questions, but I want to thank everyone today. Thank you, Dyson, for setting up this webinar, and enjoy Indigo Design. Thank you.